Her alpha male trainer told me to hit the weights if I had a problem, so I hit him instead. Now, he knows that muscles don't matter when you're breathing through broken ribs. It started at 6:42 p.m. on a Wednesday. I remember the time because I was watching the microwave count down as I reheated leftover lasagna, my own birthday dinner from 2 nights ago that she forgot. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Logan. "Bro, is this your wife? Gym in downtown? Look at this." Attached was a blurry photo, but I'd know that dress anywhere. Tight, red, just inappropriate enough to make strangers stare, and married men ask themselves why theirs don't dress like that anymore. And there she was, Melissa, straddling some dude's lap like she didn't have a husband waiting at home with a cold lasagna and a colder marriage. At first, I stared, tried to come up with excuses for her. She's probably just joking with a friend. She's sitting on him like that for balance? Maybe it's a prank. But the truth smacked me harder than any barbell ever could. I zoomed in. His hand was on her lower back. Her lips were an inch from his ear. Her smile? That wasn't her haha you're so funny smile. That was her bedroom smile. I called her. Straight to voicemail. So I drove. I didn't care how I looked. Sweatpants, slippers, hoodie with a coffee stain from 2 days ago. I looked like someone you'd cross the street to avoid. But I had a destination and a growing storm behind my ribs. By the time I got to the gym, I could already feel the rage crawling up my neck. Glass doors, loud music, people lifting, running, sweating. I scanned the machines like a predator until I saw her. Melissa, my wife of 6 years, on the squat rack, with him, tall, shirtless, greasy confidence dripping off his abs. And that smirk. God, that ****ing smirk. He was spotting her. No, actually, he had his hands right on her hips, pressing in like they were alone in a bedroom, not a gym. She laughed and bent forward. He leaned closer. I don't even remember walking. I was suddenly there, right beside them. Melissa. She froze like someone just shut off the world. Turned around slowly, guilt painted across her face, and still had the audacity to fake a smile. "Oh, babe, what are you doing here? Babe." Her voice made my fists clench. And that's when Mr. Alpha Male stepped in. "Yo, man, if you got a problem, maybe you should hit the weights before you hit the girl with your insecurities." My brain blinked out. Did he really say that? I looked him straight in the eyes. He raised his chin like a peacock, like his six-pack was enough to win wars. "Hit the weights." I repeated. "Yeah," he said, stepping forward. "Or walk away like a good little boy." So I hit him, right in the ribs. 1, 2, maybe 3 shots. He dropped like a sack of dumbbells. The whole gym froze. Melissa screamed. Someone yelled for a manager. I stood over him, heart pounding like a war drum, hands burning from contact. I looked at her, breathing hard, nostrils flaring. And she had the nerve to say it. "You're embarrassing me." Embarrassing her. Not the other way around. Not her grinding on another guy in public. Not her sneaking out for extra cardio. Not her spending our money on new lingerie that I never even got to see. No, I was the one embarrassing her. Security came. Cops were called. I left before they showed up. But that wasn't the end. Oh no, that was just the warm-up. Because what I found next, what I learned after breaking that smug trainer's ribs, it made everything worse. It made me realize how long she'd been lying, how deep the betrayal went, and how far I'd go to make sure no one ever played me like that again. This wasn't just an affair. It was a war, and I was just getting started. The drive home felt like a blackout. I don't remember turning the engine on or pulling out of the parking lot. I just remember the silence. The kind that screams in your ears when everything you believed in starts to rot. I parked outside our house and just sat there, inhaling nothing. My hands were still trembling, not from fear or regret, but from the weight of it all. Melissa hadn't called. Not a single message. Not even to pretend she was sorry. That told me everything. When I finally walked in, the house looked exactly like I left it. Perfectly normal. Her heels were still at the door. Her perfume still hung faintly in the air. The kind I used to love. Now it made me sick. I sat on the couch and stared at the blank TV. Then I spotted her gym bag, tossed lazily by the kitchen table. Something about it felt off, like a loaded gun just sitting there, daring me to pick it up. I didn't think. I acted. Inside the bag was her phone, unlocked. She never left it unlocked. That's how I knew fate wanted me to see. First thing I opened, her messages. There it was. His name, Troy. Of course it was Troy. What else would a shirtless narcissist call himself? The conversation wasn't just flirtation. It was filth. The kind of filth that strips every last shred of trust from your chest. Last night was insane, smiling face with horns. I still smell you on me. He has no idea. I told him I was going for a late-night jog, face with tears of joy. Your hands are magic. Can't wait to be sore again tomorrow. I kept scrolling. Photos. Her in that new lace bodysuit she claimed she bought just for herself. Videos. Her moaning his name in a whisper, lying in the bed where we made our vows every morning and kissed each other goodnight every evening. I slammed the phone down so hard the screen cracked. That's when I noticed the envelope under her gym clothes. Handwritten. My name on it. I opened it slowly, hoping it was a confession or an apology, or hell, maybe just a reason. Inside was a receipt. 2 one-way tickets to Cabo San Lucas. For Melissa and Troy. Departing in 4 days. I didn't feel my body anymore. I stood in the hallway like a ghost of myself, staring at the walls we painted together, the couch we cuddled on, the wedding photo still framed in our living room like it meant something. She came home at 11:24 p.m. No words. No apology. Just walked in like she owned the night. "Oh, so you're still here?" she said, tossing her keys on the counter. "Still here?" I repeated. She shrugged. "I figured you'd be out crying to your mommy or something." I didn't speak. I just looked at her. The woman I married. The woman I once thought was my future. Now just a stranger wearing my wife's face. "I saw the messages," I said quietly. She froze for a second, then laughed. "Took you long enough." That laugh. That cold, unapologetic, venom-laced laugh. It broke something in me. Not the kind of break that makes you fall apart. The kind that makes you wake the hell up. I stepped toward her. She didn't flinch. She looked me straight in the eye like she was proud of it. "So what now?" she said. "You gonna cry? Throw another punch? Maybe break something else? Or are you just gonna finally accept you're not enough for me?" That was it. Not enough. I had worked 2 jobs for 3 years so she could finish nursing school. I had paid off her credit cards. I held her hair when she was sick, kissed her forehead every morning, never missed a birthday, anniversary, or Friday night movie on the couch. And I was not enough? "Do you even feel anything?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. "Yeah, I feel free." And just like that, she walked past me, into our bedroom, slammed the door behind her. I didn't follow. I sat on the couch, staring at the broken screen of her phone, at the crack that ran through Troy's smug little message, and I made a decision. This wasn't about saving a marriage. This was about saving me. And I wasn't going down quietly. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there on the couch, eyes open, heart refusing to slow down. Every second ticked like a hammer in my chest. At 3:16 a.m., I heard the bedroom door creak. Her footsteps padded softly into the kitchen. Then the fridge opened. She was making a damn smoothie. After everything, after the messages, the gym, the smug trainer, the Cabo tickets, she was making a smoothie. I stayed silent, listening to the blender scream like it knew what I wanted to do. She walked back to the bedroom, sipping from the cup like it was just another day. Like she wasn't a fire tearing through everything we'd built. By morning, she was gone. No note. No message. Just gone. I took a long shower. Let the water burn. It couldn't scrub the disgust off my skin. When I walked back into the living room, her suitcase was missing from the closet. The black one with the gold zippers. The one she only used for trips where she planned on not coming back home clean. I called her sister. Madison was always the one who kept secrets badly. "Did Melissa go somewhere?" I asked. Madison hesitated, long enough to answer me without saying a word. "Cabo." More silence. Then finally, in a whisper like she was afraid Melissa could hear through the phone, she said it was a wellness trip with her trainer. "She told Mom you were going too." That was the moment I knew I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being erased. She wasn't having an affair. She was rewriting the whole story of us, making me the irrelevant side character in her glamorous, dishonest, Instagram-filtered life. That night, I drove to the gym. Again. Not to fight. Not to scream. I just needed to see him. The man who thought he could slide into my life and walk off with my wife like she was a dumbbell he picked up off the rack. Troy was outside, finishing a call. He didn't see me at first. His jaw was still slightly swollen from where I cracked it. He had sunglasses on, a protein shake in one hand, and a smirk on his face. I walked straight up. "Melissa's in Cabo with your name on her boarding pass," I said. He turned slowly, smiling like he'd just beat me again. "Yeah, man. She told me you'd find out eventually. I took a step closer. You proud of this? He laughed. You think she wanted your flabby, clingy, emotional mess forever? She needed a real man. That word again. Real. So I got real. I grabbed the shake out of his hand and slammed it into his chest, then shoved him so hard he hit the hood of his car. He lunged at me, but I was ready this time. I drove my elbow into his ribs, the same ribs, again and again, until he folded like laundry. He gasped, curled on the sidewalk, trying to talk, but only wheezing like a kicked dog. I leaned down close. You ever show your face around her again, and I'll make sure the next bones that break are your legs. I walked away without waiting for a reply. Back home, I started packing. Not her stuff, mine. I wasn't going to wait around for her to come back from Cabo smelling like coconut oil and guilt. I wasn't going to be the man she returned to when things got boring with her trainer toy. I was done being the soft place she landed while stabbing me in the back. That's when I found the second phone. Buried in her underwear drawer, behind a box of tampons, was a cheap burner phone. I knew it was hers because the wallpaper was a photo of her from last summer. At the beach, same red bikini, same overconfident smile. I unlocked it. No passcode. Messages. Dozens. But not from Troy. From others. Different names. Different emojis. Some saved as initials. One just saved as room 312. All of them, the same disgusting tone. She wasn't just cheating with Troy. Troy was just the latest. I dropped the phone on the floor like it burned. My marriage wasn't dying. It had been dead for a long time. She just forgot to bury it. The realization hit harder than anything I threw at Troy. She wasn't lost. She wasn't confused. She wasn't falling out of love. She was a professional liar. Cold-blooded. Calculated. Practiced. And I'd been the idiot who bought into the illusion with my whole damn soul. I stared at that burner phone, still lying on the floor like a dead animal. I didn't even want to touch it again. It wasn't just evidence. It was a graveyard. A graveyard for every lie she told. Every night, she came home late claiming she had a meeting. Every time she moaned in my ear while her mind was somewhere else. Or on someone else. I picked it up with 2 fingers like it was diseased and dropped it into the fireplace. Turned the knob. Watched it burn. She deserved to lose something too. Then I took her wedding ring from the nightstand, the one she hadn't worn in weeks, and slid it onto the mantel, right above the flames. Not to burn, just to watch. I wanted it to stare into the fire and remember what she destroyed. A knock on the door startled me. It was Logan. I saw what happened at the gym, he said. You all right? I didn't answer. Just stepped aside and let him in. He didn't ask questions. He didn't try to offer advice or bro wisdom. He sat down across from me and cracked open 2 beers without saying a word. After a long silence, I finally spoke. She's been cheating for a long time. Not just with Troy. Logan nodded slowly. You want me to help you disappear a body? That almost made me smile. Almost. We drank in silence. It felt like the first real moment of peace in days. The next morning, I booked a 1-bedroom apartment across town. Month-to-month lease. Nothing permanent. I didn't need permanent anymore. I needed freedom. Distance. Air. I packed only what mattered. My clothes, my guitar, a few books. Left everything else. Let her come back to the hollow house she built out of lies and see what it felt like when silence echoed louder than guilt. On the 3rd day, she called. Blocked number. But I knew it was her. I answered out of curiosity more than anything. Why aren't you home? She snapped. No hello. No, I'm sorry. No remorse. Just entitlement. I moved out. What? You're being dramatic. I laughed. Really? I found your second phone. Silence. Melissa, how many were there? 10. 20? Or did you just stop counting after you realized you'd never get caught? You're being paranoid, she hissed. I burned it, I said calmly. All your little secrets? They're ash now. You can't just leave. This is still our house. It stopped being ours when you started renting out your soul. Then I hung up. The next few days were quiet. Peaceful even. I went for walks. Ate food that wasn't microwaved. Slept without the weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest. But peace never lasts long when you're dealing with someone like Melissa. She showed up at my new place uninvited. I came back from a grocery run and there she was, sitting on the steps like some twisted ghost from my past. You didn't answer my texts, she said like it was my fault. I blocked you. You're seriously throwing away 6 years over some stupid mistakes? Some stupid mistakes. I didn't throw anything away, I said. You did. You set it on fire and danced around the ashes. She stood up, got close. That manipulative softness in her voice, like she still thought she could win me back if she just tilted her head right. We can fix this. No, you can't fix this. And I don't want to. And for the first time in years, I saw it. Not her anger. Not her fake tears. Fear. She realized she had nothing left to hold over me. No guilt. No confusion. No twisted fantasy of reconciliation. I had walked away, and worse, I wasn't hurting anymore. Goodbye, Melissa. I walked inside and locked the door. She banged on it for 10 full minutes. Then silence. That silence was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. She didn't come back after that night. No more calls. No texts. No sudden visits. Nothing. Just like that, it was over. But over doesn't mean healed. The real pain doesn't hit during the screaming matches or the discovery or even the betrayal. It comes in the quiet moments. The empty Sunday mornings when you realize no one's making coffee in the kitchen. The nights you roll over instinctively, reaching for someone who's not there and never really was. You start questioning yourself. Was I blind? Was I weak? Was I boring? And then the worst one, was it my fault? That one stays in your throat like glass. I went through phases. Anger mostly. Then guilt. Then shame for feeling guilty. It was like trying to peel a bullet out with your bare hands. One day, I opened my email and saw something that made my stomach twist. A message from a name I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it, but something stopped me. The subject line, "You don't know me, but I know Melissa." I opened it. "Hi, my name's Lauren. I don't want to cause drama, but I think you deserve to know. I'm dating a guy named Troy, and I recently found some photos and messages between him and a woman named Melissa. She said she was married, but separated. I found your name through her tagged photos. I'm sorry if this is overstepping, but you seemed like someone who deserves the truth." I just stared at the screen. Even after everything, the damage was still spreading. She was still lying, still playing, still destroying. I replied, "Lauren, you're not overstepping. You're probably the 6th or 7th woman to find out about her this way. I hope you get out before she ruins you too. Good luck." She responded once more. "Thanks. I already left him. And I'm sorry for what you've been through. You seem like a good man." I didn't cry, but for the first time since it all started, I felt a little lighter. Someone saw me. Someone believed me. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the broken one in the story. Weeks passed. I started rebuilding. Got a better job. Joined a gym, not to become a walking ego like Troy, but to feel strong in my own skin again. I played guitar more. Ate better. Slept deeper. Then, on a random Thursday afternoon, I saw her. At the grocery store. Melissa. Pushing a cart. Alone. She looked tired. Pale. Makeup couldn't cover the weight on her face. Her hair was pulled back in a lazy knot, not the high-maintenance curls she used to obsess over. She looked empty. Our eyes met. She froze. Mouth opened slightly, like she wanted to say something. I didn't stop. I walked past her without a word, like she was no one. And in that second, I realized something. I won. Not because I hurt her. Not because I exposed her. But because I survived her. She didn't break me. She tested me. Burned me. Scarred me. But I'm still standing. Stronger. Wiser. Cleaner. And she's still just a ghost in a story I've already finished. A week later, I mailed the final set of divorce papers. No note. No message. Just a signature where mine used to mean forever. I never heard from her again. And if you're reading this, if you've been through something like this, or if you're in it right now, let me say this. You will survive. The lies will cut you. The betrayal will bury you. The silence will hurt. But you'll crawl out. And when you do, you won't be the same. You'll be better. Because some people aren't storms. They're the smoke that follows the fire. And once you've learned to breathe through the ashes, no flame can ever scare you again. Months went by. Real months. Not the kind that feel like a blur, but the kind you live through, breath by breath. The kind where each day feels earned. I started seeing the world differently, like the betrayal had stripped away some kind of fog. I didn't smile much yet, but when I did, it was real. People around me noticed. Logan said it one night over beers. "You look lighter, man. Like someone cut loose the anchor." He was right. But healing isn't a straight line. Sometimes it punches you when you least expect it. Like the day I got the letter. Not an email. Not a text. A letter. Handwritten in blue ink, on expensive cream-colored paper. No return address. The handwriting was familiar, elegant, obsessive, a little too perfect. Melissa. I almost tossed it without opening, but curiosity, it's a cruel thing. I unfolded it slowly. The smell of her perfume hit me like a trap, same scent she wore on our honeymoon. That wasn't an accident. That was strategy. Manipulation wrapped in nostalgia. It read, Evan, I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I don't expect you to, but I want you to know, I wasn't always like this. You loved me in a way no one else ever has. I destroyed that. I see it now, and it eats me alive. I miss your laugh. I miss how safe I felt with you. Troy is gone. So are the others. They never meant what you did. I still dream of us. Please don't hate me forever. Please remember something good. M. There was no apology. Not really. Just a woman mourning the consequences she created. It wasn't love in that letter. It was loneliness. I burned it the same night. I didn't want her memory touching my walls anymore. The next day, I took a hike up near Millstone Ridge, a trail I hadn't visited in years. I used to talk about taking her there. We never went. She said it was too muddy and not worth the bugs. I stood at the overlook alone, wind against my face, trees below dancing like they had secrets. And I let it out. Not a scream, not tears, just breath. A deep, full breath. The kind that fills every corner of your lungs and presses down the past. That night, I wrote something for myself. No one else. Just a journal entry. But it felt like closure. March 14th. She didn't love me. She loved the way I loved her. There's a difference. She was addicted to adoration, not connection. To attention, not affection. But that's not my burden anymore. My only job now is to be better, smarter, wiser, kinder to myself. I folded the paper and left it under my pillow. Weeks later, I went on a date. Her name was Claire. She had the kind of smile that doesn't beg for compliments, and the kind of laugh that doesn't wait for permission. She asked real questions and actually listened to the answers. At dinner, she asked, "What was your last relationship like?" I took a sip of water and smiled. Let's just say, I learned a lot. She nodded. I've had a few of those myself. No probing, no drama, just understanding. It was the first time I talked to a woman without feeling like I was auditioning for a role I didn't want anymore. And that was the moment I knew I was free. Not because I met someone new, not because I forgot the past, but because I could sit across from someone and not think about her. Melissa was gone, not just from my life, but from my mind, from my chest, from my story. She's a ghost now. No voice, no power, no weight. And me? I'm still here, breathing, living. Claire and I didn't rush anything. That was the difference. There was no pretending, no masks, no playing roles we weren't built for. We met for coffee, then lunch, then a late-night drive where we just talked, windows down, her bare feet on the dash, the smell of pine trees blowing through the air. She asked things Melissa never bothered with. What scares you the most? What's something you miss from your childhood? What song do you put on when nobody's around? It wasn't about the answers. It was about being seen. But one night, after a quiet dinner at her place, I froze. She leaned in to kiss me, and I flinched. Not because I didn't want it, because part of me still expected a knife behind the softness. That old reflex, the one you grow when someone teaches you that love is camouflage for betrayal. She noticed. Her hand didn't pull away. Instead, she cupped my face, gently. "You're safe," she whispered. "I'm not her." And just like that, the walls cracked. Not shattered, cracked. That's how healing starts. Not with fireworks. With permission. I told her everything that night. The gym. The phone. Troy. The Cabo tickets. The second phone. Even the part where Melissa showed up at my door pretending like I owed her something. Claire didn't interrupt. Didn't flinch. When I was done, she said the one thing I never heard from anyone else. "You didn't deserve that." It hit me like a gut punch. Because deep down, some broken part of me still wondered if I had. She kissed my forehead. Not my lips. Not my neck. My forehead. Like she was putting something back together. We didn't talk much after that. Just lay on the couch, her head on my chest, our heartbeats syncing like some quiet answer the universe finally decided to give. A week later, I got the final confirmation. Melissa had sold the house. Through a lawyer. No contact. No letter. Just a formal notification and a deposit in my account, my half. It was the last string. The last knot. And with it gone, I realized something wild. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want closure. I didn't even want her to suffer. I just wanted peace. So I gave it to myself. No ceremony. No drama. Just a new chapter. Claire and I took a road trip 2 months later. No destination. Just open roads and old songs and gas station coffee. Somewhere between Arizona and Utah, she fell asleep with her hand in mine, and I looked at her, really looked, and thought, this is how it's supposed to feel. Not like fireworks. Like freedom. And here's what I'll say to any man reading this. Any man who's been lied to, cheated on, discarded like he was a stepping stone instead of a partner. You are not what she did to you. You're not the silence she left you in. You're not the lies she used to cover her mess. You're not the wreckage. You're the man who walked out of it. The one who didn't become her. The one who healed. And somewhere down the road, when you least expect it, you'll find someone who doesn't need to fix you. Just someone who knows you're already whole. And this time, you'll believe them. It's strange, really, how something that once felt like your entire life can become just a lesson. A scar, not a wound. Something you remember, but no longer feel. I don't hate Melissa. I don't love her either. What I feel now is something more powerful than either of those. Nothing. And that's freedom. There's no more weight when I walk into our old places. No more flinching when I hear her name. No more waiting for an apology that was never coming. I stopped looking for closure the moment I realized I was the closure. She broke the illusion. I built a life. And it's better. So much better. Not because I found someone new. Not because I healed faster than she did. But because I refused to let her define the rest of my story. She was a chapter. A brutal one. But she wasn't the whole book. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see a victim. I see a man who walked through hell and kept walking. A man who learned the hardest way that love isn't what you give to someone who doesn't value it. It's what you rebuild inside yourself after they're gone. Claire's still with me. Not because I need her. Because I choose her. That's the difference. No more rescuing. No more fixing. Just two people, whole on their own, building something new together. So if you're still in it, still bleeding, still confused, still clutching pieces that no longer fit, let me leave you with this. You're not alone. You're not broken. And you damn sure aren't weak. You're just at the part of the story where the storm hasn't passed yet. But it will. And when it does, you won't just survive. You'll rise. You'll rebuild. You'll remember who the hell you are. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll walk past a mirror, catch your reflection, and smile. Because you made it. Because you healed. And because the man staring back, he's free.
Our 5th anniversary. 5 years of marriage, of shared memories, of believing I had a loyal wife. 5 years of building a life together, thinking we were in it for the long run. And yet, here I was, sitting in my car outside a fancy French restaurant, watching my wife giggle over a candlelit dinner with some 20-year-old punk. The moment felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart, not my own. I checked my phone. Stuck at work. Might be home late. Love you. I stared at her message, then looked back through the restaurant window. There she was, Ashley, my loving wife, clinking glasses with some baby-faced kid who probably couldn't even grow a proper beard yet. The way she laughed, the way she leaned in, brushing her fingers against his hand. It made my stomach turn. I clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The betrayal burned in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. Not yet. Not here. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly. If I walked in there now, I'd cause a scene. Ashley would twist things, turn it into my fault somehow. No, I needed a different approach. Instead, I snapped a few pictures. Ashley, all dolled up, leaning into her little boy toy, completely oblivious to the fact that her husband was watching. She looked happy, happier than she'd been with me in years. It hit me like a brick to the face. How long had this been going on? How many times had she texted me, working late, babe, while she was out with him? How many nights had I sat at home, trusting her? I felt a bitter laugh rise in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I wasn't going to waste another second being the fool in this relationship. So I did the only thing that made sense. I texted back, no worry. Then I drove home, packed my bags, and moved into my mansion. It wasn't technically a mansion, but it was mine. A house I had bought before I ever met Ashley, paid off with my own sweat and blood. I had rented it out for years, but tonight, it became my refuge. I threw my bags onto the bed, sat down, and let the reality sink in. My wife had just celebrated our anniversary with another man. And the worst part? She didn't even know that I knew. Tomorrow, she would walk into our home, expecting me to still be there, expecting our life to go on like normal. She had no idea what was coming. And that thought, that gave me the first real smile I had in a long time. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, my mind already racing. Today was the day Ashley would come home to an empty house. No husband, no warm welcome, just the echoes of her lies bouncing off the walls. I made coffee, sipped it slowly as the sun crept through the windows. I wasn't angry anymore, not in the way I had been last night. No, now there was only a strange kind of calm. Clarity. She had no idea what was coming. At exactly 9:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Hey babe, just leaving the office now. Running on zero sleep LOL. Can't wait to see you red heart. Zero sleep. Yeah, I bet. I didn't reply. Instead, I finished my coffee, grabbed my keys, and left. I wasn't going to be there when she walked into that house and realized she had finally pushed too far. At noon, my phone rang. Then again. Then again. Ashley was losing it. I let it ring, let the voicemail pile up. Finally, she sent a text. Where are you? Why is all your stuff gone? Call me now. I let her sit with it. Let her feel that creeping sense of panic as the truth began to settle in. Then, at 3:27 p.m., another text. Babe, WTF. Answer me. I smirked, leaned back in my chair. It was almost too easy. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried about herself, about what this meant for her. At 6 p.m., I finally called her. She picked up before the first ring even finished. Where the hell are you? Her voice was sharp, frantic. I moved out, I said simply. Silence. You what? She breathed. I moved out, I repeated. You know, since you're so busy working late and all. A pause. Then, in a heartbeat, her voice changed. Sweet, soft, fake. Baby, what are you talking about? Why would you do that? I laughed. Actually laughed. Are you serious, Ashley? Yes. I don't understand. Can we just talk? Please? I'm on my way home now. Don't bother. I cut her off. I won't be there. More silence. Then her voice dropped to something colder. So what? You're just leaving me? Now it was my turn to go quiet. Finally, I said, You left first. A sharp inhale on the other end. She knew. And just like that, the act was over. You? She started, then stopped. I could hear the gears turning in her head, looking for a way out, a way to manipulate. But this time, she had nothing. Enjoy your French dinners, Ashley, I said, then hung up. I stared at my phone, waiting for the storm to hit. And when it did, it was a damn hurricane. My phone lit up with messages so fast it nearly froze. You're acting crazy. What's wrong with you? I don't understand why you're doing this to us. Can we just talk like adults? You're overreacting. It was just dinner with a friend. There it was. The gaslighting, the deflection, the desperate attempt to twist reality. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, another text. Fine. If you want to act like a child, whatever. I don't have time for your drama. And just like that, her true colors bled through. The next morning, I woke up to an even bigger mess. Ashley wasn't the type to accept defeat. If she couldn't talk her way out of this, she was going to control the narrative. I checked my phone and found a series of messages from mutual friends. Dude, what's going on? Ashley said you just left out of nowhere. Bro, Ashley's been crying all night. She says she doesn't know what happened. She told me you accused her of something insane. You good? I laughed. She was fast, I'd give her that. Already playing the victim. Already spinning her web of lies. That's when I knew she never loved me. If she had, she would have been apologizing, begging, trying to fix it. Instead, she was busy saving face. I decided to pay her a visit. Not at our house. No, I knew exactly where she'd be. I drove straight to her favorite cafe, the one she went to every morning before work. And sure enough, there she was. sitting outside, sipping a latte, scrolling through her phone without a care in the world. She wasn't crying. She wasn't devastated. She was completely fine. And across from her, the same 20-year-old kid from the French restaurant. I didn't feel anger. Not anymore. Just disgust. She saw me before I could turn away. Her eyes widened for a split second. Then, just like that, she smirked. She actually smirked. Like she had won. I walked up to the table, slow, deliberate. The kid shifted uncomfortably, clearly sensing the tension. Ashley, on the other hand, leaned back in her chair, twirling a strand of hair between her fingers like she didn't have a care in the world. "Morning, babe," she said, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "How's life in your big, empty house?" I let her sit with the silence. Then, finally, I said, "I hope he was worth it." She tilted her head, eyes dancing with amusement. "Who?" I turned to the kid, who looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. "You," I said flatly. "Did she tell you we were still married?" His face drained of color. What?" Ashley rolled her eyes. "Oh my God. Seriously? This is embarrassing. You're acting insane." I smiled. "You should really work on your fake crying. It's getting sloppy." And with that, I walked away. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need a dramatic scene. I had already won. I was done playing her game. Ashley had made her choice. Now she had to live with it. But of course, she wasn't going to let it go that easily. By the time I got home, she was already calling me again. I ignored it. A minute later, another call. Then another. Then a text. "Pick up the damn phone." I smirked. Now she was losing her patience. Then another message. "Fine. If you won't talk to me, maybe you'll talk to my lawyer." So that's where we were going now. I took my time, made myself a coffee, and finally responded. "Sure. Tell him to call me." Silence. She hadn't expected that. Ashley thrived on control. She thought she could manipulate me into panicking, into coming back just to avoid the hassle. But I wasn't that guy anymore. An hour later, another text. "Can we just talk? Just us. No fighting." She was switching tactics again, testing different angles, trying to see what would work. I stared at the message, thought about ignoring it, then decided why not. Fine. Come over. It took her less than 20 minutes to show up. She walked in like she still lived here, like she still had power over me. "Nice place," she said, looking around. "Didn't take you long to move on, huh?" I laughed. "You celebrated our anniversary with your side piece. Maybe don't lecture me about moving on." She flinched, just for a second. Then, she was back to her usual act. "Okay," she sighed, sitting down across from me. "Let's just be real. We both know this isn't working. But do we really need to be so dramatic about it?" I leaned back. "Dramatic? Yeah." She gave me a condescending little smile. "You storming off, making a whole show out of leaving. You know, if you wanted out, you could have just said so." I stared at her, stunned at the sheer audacity. "You cheated on me, Ashley." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God. It was just dinner." I pulled out my phone, scrolled, and tossed it onto the table. The pictures I took last night, clear as day. Her, laughing, touching him, kissing him. Her face changed, just for a second. Then, she snorted. "So you were stalking me now? Unbelievable." She wasn't even denying it. I shook my head. "You're incredible. You know that?" She crossed her arms, looking bored. "So what do you want? A confession? Fine. Yeah. I slept with him. You happy now?" I laughed. Actually laughed. She really thought that was a power move. "You know what, Ashley? Yeah. I am happy. Because now, I don't have to waste another second pretending you're anything other than a lying, cheating manipulative." "Spare me the speech," she cut in, waving a hand. "So what now? Divorce?" I grinned. "Oh, we're way past that." For the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes, and it felt damn good. She shifted in her seat, crossing her legs like she was settling in for a debate. "Okay, then what?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. What's your big move, tough guy? I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. She still thought this was a game, that I was just another fool she could play. You really don't get it, do you? I said. I'm done. Done arguing. Done caring. Done with you. She scoffed, rolling her eyes. Right? Because you're just gonna walk away like some kind of saint? Please. You loved me too much for that. I smirked. Past tense. That one hit. I saw it. The way her jaw tightened just slightly. The way her fingers clenched in her lap. Ashley was used to being the one in control. The one calling the shots. She wasn't used to being discarded. I stood up. You should go. She blinked, caught off guard. Excuse me? You heard me. I gestured toward the door. We're done here. You can leave now. She let out a sharp laugh, but it was forced. She wasn't laughing because she found it funny. She was laughing because she didn't know what else to do. You're really serious about this? She asked, standing up too. You're actually throwing me away? I tilted my head. Like you did to me? Silence. She licked her lips, eyes darting around the room. Look, I know I messed up, but you can't just watch me. I interrupted. Her face twisted. Now finally the act was slipping. The frustration, the panic, the realization that she wasn't going to be able to talk her way out of this one. It was all there, plain as day. She took a step closer. You don't mean this. You're just pissed right now. We can fix this. I laughed, shaking my head. She really was something else. Ashley, I don't want to fix this. I don't even want to fix you. I just want you gone. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but she stopped herself. For the first time since this all started, she had nothing to say. Good. She grabbed her purse. Her jaw clenched so tight I thought she might break a tooth. Fine, she snapped. But don't come crawling back when you realize you made a mistake. I opened the door for her. Don't worry. I won't. She stormed past me, stepping outside. Then, just as I was about to close the door, she turned back. You'll regret this, she said, eyes dark with anger. But beneath it, I saw something else. Fear. I smiled. No, Ashley. You will. And with that, I shut the door in her face. I stood there for a moment, listening to the sound of her heels clicking against the pavement as she walked away. Then, just as I expected, she turned back. A loud bang rattled the door. Then another. She was furious. You think you can just walk away from me? She shouted from the other side. You think I need you? I smiled to myself. There it was. The real Ashley. Not the sweet wife. Not the innocent victim. Just a woman who hated losing. I leaned against the door, letting her rage burn itself out. I gave you everything, she screamed. A lie. I wasted my best years on you. Another lie. You're nothing without me. The biggest lie of all. I waited. Then, just like that, she stopped. Silence. I checked the peephole. She was standing there, arms crossed, breathing heavily. Thinking. Calculating. Then, her phone was in her hand. She typed something. Smirked. Walked away. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed. Fine. Have it your way. But don't be surprised when you find out I've moved on already. Have fun alone, loser. I laughed. Actually laughed. That was the best she could do? I didn't even bother replying. I set my phone down, walked to the kitchen, and grabbed a beer. I was done. Or at least I thought I was. Because 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time it wasn't Ashley. It was a friend of mine, Jake. Dude, he said the second I picked up. You might want to check Ashley's Instagram. I frowned. Why? Jake hesitated. Then, she just posted a picture with that kid. My grip tightened around the phone. She's all over him, man. Talking about how she finally found someone who appreciates her. I closed my eyes, inhaled slowly. She was really doing this. Trying to rub it in my face. Trying to make sure I knew she had moved on first. Jake was still talking. Man, she's making you look like the bad guy. Saying you were neglecting her. That she had to find comfort somewhere else. It's bad. I chuckled. Of course she was. But I wasn't mad. Not anymore. She could say whatever she wanted. She could twist the story however she pleased. Because I knew something she didn't. She was already losing. And pretty soon she'd realize it too. I let Jake finish talking, but my mind was already elsewhere. Ashley was desperate. She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't happy. She was trying to prove something. To me, to herself, to the world. I grabbed my phone, opened Instagram, and there it was. A picture of Ashley draped over that kid like a trophy. A smug caption underneath. Finally with someone who treats me right. Some mistakes fix themselves. The comments were exactly what I expected. Her friends. You deserve the best. Babe. Randoms. Wow, he's cute. So happy for you. A few people who knew the truth. Damn, that was fast. I chuckled, shaking my head. She was playing this game in the most predictable way possible. She wanted me to react. She wanted me to chase her. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Instead, I set my phone down, cracked open another beer, and turned on the game. Let her think she won. Let her think I was sitting here, broken and devastated. Because while she was busy posting pictures, I was already moving on. The next day, it got worse. Ashley wasn't just posting pictures now. She was running her mouth everywhere. She posted a long, dramatic rant about how she had been miserable for years, how she had sacrificed so much, how she had stayed in a marriage that never made her happy. Every sentence was a lie, but I didn't comment, didn't message her, didn't play into it, and that's what got to her. By that evening, I got a text. Guess you don't care at all, huh? Figures. You never did. I smirked. Now she was fishing, looking for a reaction, looking for proof that she still had some power over me. I let her sit with the silence. Then, an hour later, another message. I don't know why I even loved you. And there it was, the crack in her act. Because if she really didn't care, if she had really moved on, she wouldn't be texting me at all. I finished my beer, stretched, and finally responded. Then stopped texting me. Nothing after that. For the first time in this entire mess, Ashley had no comeback. I turned off my phone, leaned back, and smiled. Let her sit in that. The silence lasted for days. No texts, no calls, no dramatic posts. And that's how I knew Ashley was spiraling. She had expected a fight. Expected me to beg, to argue, to try and win her back. But when I did nothing, that's when she really started to lose it. Then, on a random Thursday night, just as I was starting to enjoy the peace, my phone rang. Ashley. I stared at it for a second. Let it ring. She called again, and again. Then finally a text. Pick up, please. I sighed, ran a hand through my hair, and, for the hell of it, answered. She didn't speak right away. I could hear her breathing, heavy and uneven. Then, I messed up. I almost laughed. No sh*t. I don't even know why I did it. She continued, her voice cracking. Fake or real? Hard to tell. I thought I wanted, I don't know, excitement? Something different. But she inhaled sharply. The act was slipping. I miss you, she whispered. I exhaled, shaking my head. No, you don't. She sniffled. I do. God, I was so stupid. Okay? I was trying to hurt you, but it didn't feel the way I thought it would. I cut her off. Ashley. She went silent. I don't care. More silence. A thick, heavy kind. Then her breath hitched. You really don't, do you? She asked, voice small. No. A long pause. Then her voice hardened. Fine. There she was. The real Ashley. You think you're better off without me? She snapped. You think you're gonna find someone else? Go ahead. You'll never get someone like me again. And that was the funniest part. Because she actually thought that was a bad thing. I smiled. I sure as hell hope not. Click. I ended the call. Blocked her number. Deleted her pictures. That was it. No dramatic goodbye. No long, painful conversations. Just done. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free.
The day I found out about the affair was anything but ordinary. It wasn't a grand, dramatic moment, but rather a quiet, subtle shift in the atmosphere around me. My wife, Sarah, had always been an enigma in the best of ways. We had been together for almost a decade that felt like both a dream and a prison at the same time. There were always little signs, late nights, strange excuses, an unfamiliar tone in her voice, but I never wanted to acknowledge them. I was too invested in the idea of what we had, in the life we had built together. But one night, everything changed. It wasn't the first time she had stayed late at work, or claimed to be out with friends, but this time, it felt different. I could sense it. That sinking feeling that gnawed at the back of my mind like a shadow growing larger in the dark. So, I decided to follow her. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find. Maybe I was looking for something to confirm my suspicions, or maybe I was hoping I was just being paranoid. But when I saw her with him, I knew. I had watched her walk into a dimly lit restaurant on the outskirts of town, my heart thumping against my chest as I parked the car and watched. I tried to tell myself I was just being dramatic, overthinking it, but then I saw him, tall, dark, and with a smile that I had never seen her give me. Not once. She laughed, a laugh that I hadn't heard in months. It wasn't the laugh I knew, the one that shared quiet moments at home. No, this was different. It was carefree, unburdened, as if nothing mattered except the man sitting across from her. And then, as the evening went on, the touches started. A hand brushing her back, lingering a bit too long on her shoulder. And the way she looked at him, her eyes gleaming in a way I hadn't seen in years. I sat there, frozen, unable to tear my eyes away from the scene unfolding before me. My heart was in my throat, the lump so thick I could barely breathe. She had done it. She had betrayed me. I didn't know what hurt more, the sight of her with him or the realization that she had been lying to my face for who knows how long. The dinner wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an isolated incident. She had planned it. She had made a decision, and I was nothing but a fool, believing in the lie she had sold me for years. I sat in my car, shaking, watching as they walked out together. He kissed her on the cheek before she got into her car. The kiss was soft, intimate, like they had done it 100 times. And then, she drove away. I followed, silently trailing behind her until she reached our house. But tonight, nothing was normal. She didn't come inside. Instead, she parked, grabbed her purse, and walked straight into his arms. She kissed him, right there, on the street, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I couldn't take it anymore. I slammed my fist against the steering wheel, the reality of what I had seen hitting me like a ton of bricks. It wasn't a shock in the way I expected. It wasn't a grand, dramatic affair with tears and yelling. No, it was far worse. It was the quiet death of something I had held dear for years. It was the understanding that I had been a fool. That the woman I loved had already made her choice, and I was nothing but a bystander in the wreckage of our marriage. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. I couldn't even remember how I got back, but as I entered the house, everything felt suffocating. The walls felt smaller, the air thicker. I could almost hear the mocking laughter echoing in my mind, taunting me, reminding me of my failure. My wife had betrayed me, and I had been too blind to see it. Little did I know, this was only the beginning. What I had just witnessed was only a small part of the story. There was much more to uncover. I had never felt so cold in my life. The moment I walked through the door, my skin prickled with a mix of dread and anger, but mostly disbelief. How could she? How could Sarah, my Sarah, do this to me? I had known her since we were teenagers, watched her grow into the woman I thought I knew inside and out. But now, after everything, I realized how little I really knew. She had shattered that image with a single, soft kiss. It had been hours since I'd followed her, and I couldn't stop replaying the scene in my head. Every detail, every touch, every glance. I needed answers. I needed to hear it from her. I needed to hear her admit it. And so, without thinking twice, I walked straight into our bedroom, where Sarah was sitting, casually scrolling through her phone like nothing had changed. "Who is he, Sarah?" I asked, my voice low, almost a growl. Her eyes flicked up at me, startled at the sudden question. For a moment, I saw her mask crack. But it was brief. It was a fleeting moment, and then she recovered. She sat up straighter, the same smug expression returning to her face. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice thick with false innocence. I couldn't believe it. The audacity. How could she act so casual after what I had just witnessed? The woman I had spent years with, the one I thought I could trust, was sitting there in front of me, acting like she hadn't just betrayed me in the most blatant way possible. "Don't play dumb. I saw you. I saw the two of you together," I said, my voice rising, the heat building in my chest. "I saw the way he touched you. The way you looked at him. Don't lie to me, Sarah. Just tell me the truth." For a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in her eyes, guilt, maybe, or maybe fear. But she was quick to mask it, her expression shifting into something colder, more distant. "You're crazy," she snapped, standing up and walking toward the door, as if she could simply walk away from this. "You always do this. Always overreacting." "Overreacting?" I repeated, my voice incredulous. "You're telling me I'm overreacting after everything I saw? After the way you—" She cut me off with a harsh laugh, turning back to face me, arms crossed over her chest. "Oh, please. You've been acting like an idiot for years. You think I didn't notice how miserable you've been? You think I didn't see how you've been too busy with your work to even care about me? Maybe I just got tired of it. Maybe I wanted something more, something real." I felt my breath catch in my throat. Was she actually blaming me for this? For her actions? For her decision to betray me? The anger surged in me again, stronger this time, but there was something else beneath it, something colder, darker. Disbelief. Confusion. "You wanted this?" I asked, almost laughing bitterly. "You wanted to throw everything away because of whatever this is? Some guy who treats you like nothing? Like a toy?" Her eyes narrowed, and her lips curled into a smile that made my stomach turn. "Don't act like you're some saint," she hissed. "You've been a terrible husband. You think I didn't notice? All those late nights, all the times you ignored me? It's always about you, isn't it? Your career, your friends. You never once thought about me." "That's a lie," I said, my fists clenching. "I've always been here for you." "No," she said sharply, walking toward me with a look that could only be described as venomous. "You haven't. And maybe it's time for you to finally realize that. Maybe it's time for you to stop pretending like you didn't deserve it." My jaw clenched. My heart raced. I had always known she was strong-willed, stubborn even, but this was different. This wasn't the woman I had loved. This wasn't the Sarah I had married. This woman standing in front of me, this cruel, dismissive woman, was a stranger. And in that moment, I understood something more. She wasn't even sorry. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She wasn't trying to make excuses or even apologize. She was justifying it. She was telling me that all of this, all the lies, all the betrayal, was somehow my fault. As if her actions, her infidelity, were somehow a response to me, to something I had done or not done. And then, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, she turned away. "I'm done here," she said, her tone final. "I've had enough of this marriage. I want a life where I'm actually appreciated. If you think you can change my mind with this pathetic little interrogation, think again." I felt something snap in me, a rush of anger so overwhelming I almost didn't recognize myself. "You've been planning this, haven't you? You've been thinking about this for months while I was just too blind to see it." She didn't even flinch. Her face remained cold, unaffected. "Maybe," she said with a smirk. "But it doesn't matter anymore. You're too late." And with that, she walked out of the room, leaving me standing there, empty. My legs felt weak, my chest tight. I couldn't breathe. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had built my entire life around, had just torn everything apart. I had been the fool. I had believed in a lie. But this was just the beginning. She had made her move, but now, so would I. I spent the next few days in a fog. A thick, suffocating haze that clouded my every thought, my every movement. The house felt like a tomb, silent, oppressive, as if everything that had once lived within its walls had been sucked out, leaving nothing but hollow echoes. Sarah hadn't come home that night. Or the next. She didn't even bother to explain herself anymore. And I couldn't bring myself to care about what she had to say. She had already made her choice, and now it was my turn to make mine. But then, something happened that I hadn't expected. I had decided to confront her again. Not with questions or accusations, but with a demand, one final conversation where I could lay everything out. I needed closure, even if she wasn't going to give it to me. I was done with the games. But when I arrived at our home, it wasn't Sarah who greeted me at the door. It was him. The bastard. The one I had seen with her. His name was Jake, tall, scruffy, wearing the kind of smug grin that made my skin crawl. It wasn't the first time I'd seen him, but it was the first time I'd seen him in my house, in the place where my life had once felt whole. I was so angry I couldn't see straight, but before I could say a word, he shoved a knife into my hand, pressing it against my throat. "Now you're a real cuckold," he sneered. "You'll watch, while we have fun with her. You'll stand there, weak and pathetic, and watch." The world tilted. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. It wasn't the words that shocked me. It was the complete disrespect, the way he spoke to me as if I were nothing. I wanted to lash out, but the cold steel of the knife pressed deeper into my skin, a reminder that I was powerless in that moment. For a split second, all I could think of was Sarah. Where was she? Was she in on this? Did she even care about me anymore? "Watch, bastard," Jake said, his voice a venomous whisper. "Watch how you should treat me." He shoved me, pushing me into the living room. There, on the couch, sat Sarah. She was staring at me, no guilt, no apology. Just cold, empty eyes. She had orchestrated this, I realized. She had planned this humiliation. It wasn't just the affair, it was the power she had over me, the control she wanted to exert. And she wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Jake sat next to her, his arm casually draped over her shoulder, like they were some twisted couple. Sarah didn't even look at me as I stood there, frozen, unable to process what was happening. My heart was thumping so loudly in my chest I thought it might burst. "Don't just stand there," Sarah finally said, her voice dripping with disdain. "You should be thankful we're even letting you watch. Maybe you'll learn something about how a real man treats me." I felt my world shatter again, a second time, in a way I didn't think was possible. There was no remorse in her eyes. She was enjoying this. Enjoying the humiliation. The destruction of everything we had. "I don't know what's worse," I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "That you're doing this to me, or that you think I'll let you." Jake's laugh echoed through the room. "You've already let me. You've been nothing but a joke this whole time." I had never felt so weak, so utterly helpless. But there was a fire growing inside me. A fire I hadn't felt in so long. Something cold, something dark. I wasn't going to let her do this to me. Not again. Not like this. I don't know what made me snap. Maybe it was the look of pure satisfaction on her face, or maybe it was Jake's smug grin, or maybe it was just the weight of everything that had built up inside me, finally spilling over. I reached out, grabbed the closest thing I could find, a heavy lamp, and swung it with all the force I could muster. The glass shattered against Jake's skull with a sickening crack. He fell to the ground, groaning in pain, clutching his head. Sarah screamed in shock, but I didn't care. I didn't care about anything except the fury that had overtaken me. I grabbed Jake by the collar, dragging him to his feet with a strength I didn't know I had. His eyes were dazed, blood dripping down his face, but he still had that arrogant smirk. I threw him into the wall, hearing the sickening thud of his body crashing against it. He crumpled to the floor, gasping for air. You think you can just walk into my life and destroy everything? I spat, my hands shaking with adrenaline. You think you can come into my house, my home, and take what's mine? I stood over him, breathing heavily, watching him writhe in pain. But then, I turned to Sarah. She hadn't moved. She was still sitting on the couch, her arms crossed, her eyes cold and indifferent. Is this really what you want? I asked, my voice low and dangerous. You think this is power? You think this is control? Her eyes flickered, but there was no apology. No regret. Nothing. This is who I am now, she said, her voice ice cold. You never understood me, and now you never will. I stared at her for a long time, the weight of her words crashing over me like a wave. But deep down, I knew one thing for sure, I was done. This life, this marriage, it was over. I turned and left the room, walking out into the night, leaving her and Jake behind. I had a plan. And it was far from over. What I was going to do next? Well, that was something I hadn't figured out yet, but it was coming. And I wasn't going to let anyone stop me. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel like I had won or taken control. If anything, I felt empty, like I had just unleashed a storm inside me that I couldn't contain, and now there was no going back. I walked out of the house, leaving Sarah and Jake behind, but it was the image of her face, cold, unapologetic, almost indifferent, that haunted me. I couldn't go back to the house. Not yet. I couldn't face the place where everything had shattered. I drove aimlessly for hours, my hands tight on the wheel, my mind racing. What was I supposed to do now? What came next after everything I had just witnessed? My mind circled back to Jake, to the bastard who thought he could just walk in and take my life apart. The audacity of him. The sheer disrespect. I didn't know where I was going, but eventually, I found myself at a bar. It was late, the dim lighting casting long shadows over the worn-out tables. It was the kind of place where people came to drown their sorrows, and tonight, I was no exception. I walked in, ordered a drink, and took a seat in the corner, hoping for some solitude, some space to figure out my next move. The alcohol hit me quickly, but it didn't numb the rage. It didn't take away the sting of betrayal. I tried to clear my head, but the images kept flashing, Sarah laughing with Jake, touching him, kissing him, doing all the things I thought we had shared. I was furious, but there was something else too, something darker. A twisted sense of clarity. This wasn't just about Sarah anymore. It wasn't even about Jake. This was about me, about reclaiming what had been taken from me, about making them understand the price of their betrayal. I didn't know how long I sat there, nursing my drink, until I noticed someone walk in. He wasn't familiar, but there was something about the way he carried himself, the way he moved through the room. He wasn't here to drink away his problems. He was here on business. And I could tell, just from the way he scanned the room, that he was the kind of man who didn't just sit back and watch life happen. He took control. I watched him for a few moments, and then he locked eyes with me. There was something in his gaze, sharp, calculating. I didn't think much of it at first, but then he started walking toward me. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice low and steady. I gave a tight, almost involuntary nod, and he sat down without waiting for permission. He was older than me, mid-40s maybe, but there was a certain confidence about him that made it impossible to ignore. "You look like a man with a story," he said, not in a patronizing way, but more like he was sizing me up, trying to figure out what was going on behind my eyes. I didn't feel like talking, didn't feel like unloading my life onto a stranger, but something about his presence made me want to speak. Maybe it was the intensity in his eyes. Maybe it was the fact that I needed to say it out loud, just once, to someone who didn't know me. "I'm a man who's been betrayed," I said, my voice rougher than I expected. He raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. Instead, he motioned for the bartender and ordered a drink. "What's your plan?" he asked after a moment. I looked at him, confused. "Your plan," he repeated. "For the situation. You've been wronged. You're clearly angry. But what's your next move?" I was taken aback. No one had asked me that. Not like this. Not with that level of interest, that quiet understanding. I stared at my drink, trying to find the words. "I don't know yet," I admitted. I thought I had it all figured out. I thought I knew who she was. I thought she was mine. But I've been living a lie. She's been lying to me, playing me for a fool. My voice trailed off, the bitterness sinking deeper with every word. He nodded slowly, as if considering my words. "People lie. It's what they do. What matters is what you do when the truth is revealed. What matters is whether you sit back and take it, or whether you do something about it." I felt a flicker of something inside me. A spark. It wasn't just rage. It wasn't just the need for revenge. It was something more, something colder. The idea that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as powerless as I felt. "What do you suggest?" I asked, leaning forward slightly. He smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was a calculated one, like he had been waiting for me to ask. "You don't just take revenge," he said, his voice dropping lower, as if sharing a secret. "You make them pay. You make them regret the moment they ever thought they could disrespect you. But you do it in a way that's clean. Strategic. You don't just lash out. You make them understand that you're not someone they can walk over. You make sure they know exactly what it costs to cross you." I felt my pulse quicken. This man wasn't just talking about some petty revenge. He was talking about a calculated, ruthless response. And for the first time since everything had come crashing down, the idea didn't seem so far-fetched. "Tell me more," I said, leaning in, my voice steady now. He took a slow sip of his drink, looking at me with that same calculating gaze. "You need to make them suffer. All of them. Start with Jake. He thinks he's invincible. Show him he's not. But the real fun? The real satisfaction? It comes when you turn it all back on her. Make her see the man she thought she could control, and show her exactly what happens when she takes a man for granted." I felt the blood rush to my face. The anger surged again, but now it was tempered with something else, something colder, more dangerous. "I'm listening," I said, my voice tight with anticipation. And just like that, I knew, this wasn't about closure anymore. It wasn't about fixing what had been broken. This was about making Sarah, and Jake, pay for everything they had done to me. And I would make them regret the day they ever thought they could get away with it. The next few days felt like a blur. My mind was racing with everything the man at the bar had said. The words echoed in my head, louder than my own thoughts, louder than the anger that still simmered in me. He had planted a seed. A seed that grew fast, taking over my every waking thought. Make them regret it. Make them suffer. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about control. It was about regaining the power I had so foolishly given away. I had spent years believing that love would be enough, that loyalty and trust could hold everything together. But now, I realized how naive I had been. Sarah didn't value that. She valued power, manipulation, and the ability to destroy when it suited her. And it was time for me to show her that I could do the same. I started with Jake. He was the easiest target, the most vulnerable. He had no idea who he was messing with, and he had no clue what was coming for him. I waited for the right moment. I knew where he lived, the hours he worked, the places he liked to frequent. I followed him for days, studying his routine like a predator stalking its prey. And then, one evening, when the streets were quiet and the city felt like it was holding its breath, I saw him. He was walking home from his usual dive bar, drunk, unsteady on his feet. It was the perfect opportunity. I followed him at a distance, watching him as he swerved down the alley that led to his building. He had no idea I was there, lurking in the shadows, my heart pounding in my chest. And then, as he fumbled with his keys, I stepped forward, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of snow on the ground. He didn't even hear me approach. I swung the bat with all my might. The crack of it against his ribs was like music to my ears. He staggered back, gasping in shock, but I didn't give him a moment to recover. I swung again, this time connecting with his leg. He dropped to the ground, howling in pain. "Jake," I said, my voice low and calm. "I hope you enjoyed your time with my wife. Because you won't be walking for a while." He groaned, clutching his leg, his face contorted in pain. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I knelt down beside him, grabbing him by the collar and lifting him off the ground. "You think you can just come into my life and take whatever you want?" I asked, my voice a razor-sharp whisper. "You think you can walk away unscathed?" He sputtered, trying to speak, but I didn't care. I wasn't interested in hearing his excuses. He wasn't going to get the chance to explain himself. I had no interest in understanding why he did it. The only thing I cared about was making him feel the weight of his actions. I pulled him up, my hand tightening around his throat. "You're going to remember this night for the rest of your life, Jake. And when you wake up in the hospital, I want you to think about everything you took from me. Because I'm not done. I'm just getting started." I shoved him back to the ground and stood up, feeling the rush of power surge through me. For the first time in days, I felt like I had control. Like I was in charge of my own life again. As I walked away, leaving him there, I couldn't help but smile. I knew Jake would be out of commission for a while, maybe longer. His arrogance had cost him. And Sarah? Well, she would get her turn soon enough. But even as I reveled in the small victory, something inside me told me this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. There was a deeper part of me that still hadn't been fully satisfied. A deeper part of me that still burned with fury, that still wanted to make Sarah feel the same way I did, broken, discarded, betrayed. I wasn't just going to let this go. No, there were still 2 more people to deal with, and neither of them were going to get off easy. The next day, I received a call that changed everything. It was from Sarah's phone. But it wasn't her on the line. It was him, Jake. I could hear the pain in his voice, the desperation. He was begging me to let him off the hook. Begging me to not go further with what I had started. "I'll tell her," he said, his voice strained. "I'll tell her that it was a mistake, that I never meant to hurt you, that it was just a fling. Just don't hurt me anymore." It was almost laughable. The man who had caused all this pain, who had taken my wife from me, was now begging for mercy. And yet, I didn't feel any pity for him. Not an ounce. I leaned into the phone, my voice cold and calculated. "Jake, you don't get to make demands here. You don't get to call the shots. This is my game now, and you're just a pawn. I'm not interested in your apologies. I'm not interested in your excuses. I paused, letting the silence hang in the air. I could almost hear him gulping on the other end of the line. You'll regret ever getting involved with her, I said. You'll regret every single moment you spent in my life. I hung up the phone and looked out the window, the cold winter air biting at my skin. My thoughts were clear now. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about reclaiming everything that had been stolen from me. It wasn't just Jake who needed to pay. It was Sarah too. I had done what I needed to do with Jake. Now, the real challenge awaited. And I wasn't going to back down. There was one more person to deal with. One more person to make feel what I had felt. The final reckoning would come soon. And when it did, Sarah would finally understand what it meant to be on the other side of betrayal. I couldn't get Sarah out of my mind. No matter how many times I replayed the events with Jake in my head, no matter how many times I heard his whimpers echo in my ears, it was her that lingered. She was the reason I was here, the reason I had become this man I didn't even recognize anymore. It wasn't just the betrayal. It wasn't just the fact that she had lied to me for months, possibly years. It was the way she had laughed in my face when I confronted her, the way she had acted like I didn't matter. Like I was some insignificant part of her life that could be discarded when it suited her. Jake was a pawn, a piece of the puzzle. But Sarah? Sarah was the queen, and I was going to make her pay. I spent the next few days waiting. It was the hardest part. I could have done something rash, I could have confronted her, but I knew that wouldn't be satisfying. It wasn't enough to just see her cower, to see her beg for forgiveness. No, I wanted more than that. I wanted her to understand what she had lost, what she had thrown away. I wanted her to know exactly how it felt to be in my shoes, to feel the weight of the lies and the betrayal. I kept my distance from her. I didn't call her. I didn't check her social media. I didn't even pretend to care. And that, in itself, was a weapon. Every moment she didn't hear from me, every day that went by without a word, she knew something was coming. I could feel it in the air when I passed her on the street or when I saw her at work. There was an unsettling quiet between us, and I could see the guilt in her eyes, the way she avoided me. But that wasn't enough. I needed to make her sweat, to make her regret ever betraying me. Then, the phone rang. It was Sarah. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. My heart wasn't racing, but there was a coolness inside me, a calmness that surprised me. This was it. This was the moment she would try to explain herself, try to twist everything and make me feel like I was the one in the wrong. Hello? I said, my voice as steady as I could make it. Where are you? Sarah's voice was strained, filled with something that could have been guilt or fear, I couldn't tell. I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk. I took a deep breath. We do need to talk, I said, each word measured. But not in the way you think. There was a silence on the other end. Then, what does that mean? I let the silence hang between us for a moment longer. Then, I spoke again, my words slow, deliberate. I'm not interested in your excuses. I'm not interested in hearing how it was my fault, or how you didn't mean it. I'm done listening to you lie. Her voice cracked. Please, I'm sorry. I've been trying to reach you to apologize. You have to understand, it wasn't like that. I didn't mean to hurt you. Really? I cut her off. Because I watched you. I watched you laugh with him. I watched you touch him, kiss him. And you thought I wouldn't notice? She was silent for a long time. I could hear her breathing on the other end, trying to gather her words, trying to come up with some kind of defense. But I wasn't interested in hearing it anymore. I'm not done yet, I said, my voice low and firm. What do you mean? She asked, sounding genuinely confused. I'm going to make you understand what you've done, I said. But not just by leaving. Not by just walking away. I'm going to make you feel it. I'm going to make you feel everything I've felt. You're going to regret this. You're going to regret every moment you've spent with him. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing faster now, panic setting in. What are you going to do? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Please, don't do anything crazy. I laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. It was empty. You think I'm crazy? I asked. You think you're in a position to tell me what to do? I could hear the desperation in her voice now. Please, just meet with me. We can talk this through. You can't do this. This isn't you. But I wasn't listening. I had already made my decision. The moment I saw her with Jake, the moment I realized how easily she had discarded me, I knew that this wasn't just about a fight. This was about power. This was about me reclaiming everything she had stolen from me, even my own sense of self. I wasn't going to let her just walk away from this without feeling the consequences. I'll be there, I said, cutting her off. But don't expect forgiveness. Don't expect anything from me except the truth. I'll be at the park at 7. I hung up the phone without waiting for a response. For a moment, I stood there, just breathing, letting the weight of everything settle over me. I was calm now, focused. Sarah was going to face the consequences of her actions. She was going to understand what it meant to betray someone who truly loved her. I didn't care what she said in her apology. I didn't care if she cried or begged. This wasn't about saving our marriage. This was about showing her that betrayal had a price. And I was about to make her pay. At the park, I stood by the fountain, watching the water cascade down, my mind racing. I was prepared for anything, but I still couldn't help but feel a tight knot in my stomach. This was the moment. The moment that would change everything. She arrived right on time, her face pale, her eyes darting around nervously. When she saw me, she hesitated, then walked toward me, as if expecting me to open my arms, to welcome her back with some pathetic excuse for understanding. But I wasn't that man anymore. Not after everything. Let's talk, she said, her voice trembling, but I could see the anger behind her eyes. She was still holding on to her pride, still trying to control the situation. I didn't respond immediately. I just stared at her. And then, slowly, I spoke. No more talking, I said, my voice steady, unwavering. It's too late for that. The air between us was heavy, charged with everything that had happened. There was no going back now. And for the first time, I knew, this was my moment. My reckoning. The cold air hung heavy between us, and for a moment, I thought she might try to backpedal, apologize one more time, or beg for some sliver of mercy. But there was something different in her eyes. It wasn't the guilt I had expected, or the contrition I had hoped for. No, what I saw instead was defiance. That spark in her gaze told me everything I needed to know. Sarah was still the same woman who had destroyed me, and she wasn't going down without a fight. You're making a huge mistake, she said, her voice low and steady, but there was a sharp edge to it, like a blade being slowly sharpened. You think you're going to punish me for this? You think you can scare me into feeling bad about what happened? I didn't say anything at first. I just watched her, waiting for the realization to hit her. She had been running the show for far too long, and I had let her. But now, the tables had turned. I'm not trying to scare you, I said slowly, my voice cool. I'm showing you who's in control now. Her lips curled into a thin smile, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. She wasn't as confident as she tried to make herself seem. Oh please, she scoffed, stepping closer to me, her heels clicking against the pavement. You think this is going to get to me? You're pathetic. You always have been. The words stung more than I wanted to admit, but they only served to fuel the fire inside me. She was right about one thing: I had been pathetic. I had let her walk all over me, let her tear me apart while I did nothing but beg for her affection. I wasn't that man anymore. You really think that hurts me? I shot back, my voice now cold, my body tense. You think I care what you say to me? You've been dragging me through the dirt for months, and now you want to pretend you're the one in control? Her eyes narrowed, and she took another step closer. I don't need you anymore. I don't need anyone. I've got what I want, and you're just some sad little man who can't let go. The venom in her words was almost poetic, but it wasn't enough to shake me. You think that's how this works? I asked, my voice a low growl now, rising with frustration. You think you can just walk away from everything you've done and leave me with nothing? You think I'll just forget about Jake and all the others, like they didn't mean anything? Her face twisted in disgust. You're pathetic. You've been chasing shadows this whole time, pretending you were the victim. I never owed you anything. You were just a tool to get what I wanted. The words hit like a slap, but I didn't flinch. No, instead, I clenched my fists, my mind racing. This was it. This was the moment where everything came crashing down. You want to talk about tools? I said, stepping forward, closing the distance between us. My voice was barely above a whisper, but every word hung in the air like a death sentence. You've been using me your entire life, Sarah. You've used me for everything, for security, for affection, for control. And now, you think you can throw me away like I'm nothing? She looked at me with that smug, self-satisfied grin, like she had already won. But there was something in her eyes now, something cracking, something unraveling. She could feel it, too. The shift in power. The shift in control. Don't pretend like you're better than me, she spat. You're just as weak as the rest of them. Just another man who thinks he can dominate me, but it won't work. You'll never get the satisfaction you think you're owed. I took another step toward her, closing in on the gap. Her words were poison, but I was done listening. You think you know me, but you've never understood me. You've never cared to understand who I really am. You think you can control everything around you, but that's over. It ends tonight. There was a silence. The kind that felt like it was stretching, pulling taut, just before everything broke loose. And then, in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't physical, but it was palpable. Are you really going to do this? She asked, her voice suddenly less sure of itself, less smug. Are you really going to go this far? You think you can just ruin me? I stared at her, trying to read the layers beneath her words, trying to understand the woman who had so easily broken me. The woman who had destroyed everything I believed in. You've already ruined yourself, Sarah, I said, my voice sharp. I'm just here to remind you. The silence between us deepened, thick and suffocating. It wasn't just a moment of tension, it felt like a countdown, like every second that passed was pulling us closer to an inevitable explosion. She opened her mouth as if to respond, but before she could say anything, the sound of a car door slamming echoed in the distance. We both turned, instinctively, to see a car pulling up to the curb. I couldn't help but notice the man behind the wheel. He was familiar, too familiar. The guy I had been following the last few days. The third one. The one who had been spending time with Sarah in secret. I watched as he stepped out of the car, his gaze locking with mine. For a moment, it felt like time stopped. He was just as surprised to see me as I was to see him. And then Sarah spoke, a wicked smile playing on her lips. Well, if it isn't my dear husband, the one who thinks he can control everything. You want to play games? Fine. Let's see who wins. My pulse quickened, my mind spinning. I didn't know if I was prepared for what was about to unfold, but I knew one thing for sure, this wasn't over yet. In fact, it was only just beginning. The game had changed. And I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I took a step toward the car, toward the man who had dared to walk into my life and take what was mine. And as I did, Sarah's voice rang out behind me, mocking, triumphant, "You really think you're in control now? You're nothing but a pawn, just like all the others." I didn't look back. There was no point in responding. She had already made her choice, and now, so had I. I could hear Sarah's mocking voice trailing off in the distance, but I didn't turn back. My focus was entirely on the man who had just stepped out of the car, Jake. His posture was confident, almost smug. He seemed to think that everything was still under control, that I was still just a frustrated husband with a fragile ego. But I was done being fragile. I was done being the weak one. As I approached him, I could see the surprise in his eyes. He wasn't expecting me to be this close. He probably thought he was safe, that he had all the time in the world to continue whatever it was he had been doing with Sarah. But that was the thing, he hadn't accounted for me. "Jake," I said, my voice cold. "Funny seeing you here." He looked at me with a faint smile, trying to mask his nerves. "What's this, huh? You following me now? You think I'm scared of you?" I stopped in front of him, close enough that I could see the bead of sweat forming on his forehead. "You should be," I said, my tone like ice. "I've spent months chasing shadows, letting her drag me through this hell. But I'm done with all that. You're not just a mistake, Jake. You're a reminder of everything I've lost, everything she's taken from me." He took a step back, his smile faltering. "Listen, man," he started, raising his hands in a half-hearted gesture of surrender, "this isn't what you think. Sarah." I didn't let him finish. "I don't want to hear about Sarah. I'm not here for explanations or excuses. I'm here for something much more satisfying than just talking." For the first time, I saw him hesitate. The bravado he had been trying to hold on to seemed to slip away. I could see his mind racing, calculating, trying to figure out if he could somehow talk his way out of this, if there was some way to salvage his dignity. But he was too late. The truth had already settled in between us. I moved forward, pushing past him in a swift motion, and grabbed him by the collar of his jacket. He stumbled back, but I didn't give him a chance to react. I shoved him up against the car, my hands tightening on his shirt. "You don't get it, do you?" I growled, my voice barely contained. "You think this is just about getting some cheap thrill with my wife? You think this is just some little game? No, Jake. This is about everything. This is about me getting my life back. And you? You're just a casualty in the war she started." Jake's face turned pale, his bravado shattered. He tried to push me off, but it was weak, desperate. He had no power here. "You don't have to do this, man," he pleaded, his voice strained. "I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean to." I slammed him back against the car harder this time. "I didn't ask for your apology," I said, my voice full of venom. "I'm done with apologies. I'm done with being the fool who believes in redemption. You want to know what you deserve? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You don't deserve to walk away from this." He started to mumble, but I wasn't listening anymore. I had spent so long consumed by anger, hurt, and a need for revenge that I didn't even need to hear him beg. I already knew what I was going to do. It was then that I heard Sarah's voice again, calling out from behind me. "Don't do this, Jason," she shouted. "It's not worth it. You're better than this. You don't need to stoop to his level." I turned my head slightly, just enough to see her standing there, hands trembling, her face contorted in some form of twisted desperation. The woman who had once been my everything was now pleading for mercy, for him. "Don't listen to her," Jake said, his voice shaking. "You don't want to go this far. Think about what you're doing. You can't just destroy everything. For a moment, a part of me hesitated. I could see Sarah standing there, her eyes wide, trying to salvage whatever dignity she had left. But it was too late. The moment of weakness I had once shown her was gone. I wasn't the man who would beg. I wasn't the man who would tolerate lies, manipulation, or disrespect anymore. You've already destroyed everything, I said quietly, releasing my grip on Jake and taking a step back. The only difference now is that you'll remember who you messed with. You'll remember who made you pay. I turned to Sarah, locking eyes with her. There was no more love in me, no more desire to salvage what we had. I had watched her manipulate me for too long, and now it was time for her to live with the consequences of her choices. You think you can just play both sides, Sarah? I asked, my voice calm but laced with fury. You think you can humiliate me and walk away unscathed? You've got another thing coming. She stepped back, almost as if she wanted to retreat into the shadows, but there was nowhere for her to hide. The woman who had controlled so much of my life was now standing in front of me, helpless, exposed. And I didn't feel sorry for her. I looked back at Jake, who was still trying to regain his composure, rubbing his neck where I had grabbed him. You're lucky this is all you're getting, I told him. You're lucky I'm not dragging you both through the streets for everyone to see what you did. But trust me, this is just the beginning. You'll both live with the scars of what you've done. And no amount of pretending will ever erase them. With that, I turned on my heel and walked away, not bothering to look back. I could hear Sarah calling out to me, but I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had finally taken control back. And nothing, was going to make me doubt that decision again. As I walked away, a strange sense of calm washed over me. It wasn't victory. It wasn't relief. It was something else, something I couldn't name. I wasn't the man who had been humiliated and broken anymore. I had become someone else, someone who had learned the hard way that the worst betrayals could only be defeated by the strongest of wills. And now, Sarah and Jake? They had to live with the aftermath of their choices. They had to carry the weight of the truth I had uncovered. For me, that was enough. The rest was just noise.
Don't come for Christmas, she said, her voice cold, detached. I was still holding the plane ticket I bought to surprise her. We'll pretend we don't know you. Those words burned through the phone line like acid. But it wasn't just her. No. Don't come for Christmas, my billionaire boyfriend will be present, her sister Madison said gently, like she was doing me a favor. We'll pretend we don't know you, her mother chimed in, like a rehearsed line from a twisted play. And just like that, I wasn't a husband. I was an outsider to my own damn family. Let me rewind. Not too far. Just enough to show you how I got here, standing in my own living room, watching snow fall outside while my wife prepared for a holiday with her lover, a billionaire. His name was Travis. Of course, it was. They thought I'd crumble. They thought I'd sit there with my chest caved in, wondering what I did wrong. But no, I did something else. I sent my photo to the caterer. A smiling, happy photo of me and her on our wedding day. I told him to tape it to the champagne fridge. Nothing flashy. Just there, where eyes would land eventually. And guess what? Travis saw it at the Christmas Eve party. He didn't even wait for dessert. Didn't yell. Didn't throw a fit. He looked at her, then the photo, back to her. Said one word. Liar. Then he left. She called me 30 minutes later, screaming. You vindictive piece of crap, she yelled. You ruined everything. I didn't say a word. I just watched the snow keep falling. Because now we're even. But let's talk about how we got here. The cheating? Yeah, I knew. You think a man can't feel the shift in the air when his woman starts letting another man keep her warm at night? It started 3 months ago. Her name's Emily. But don't let the soft sound of it fool you. Emily used to be gentle, kind. No? She was razor-sharp sarcasm wrapped in perfume and heels. Everything I did annoyed her. Everything I said sparked an eye roll. I noticed the late nights. Just drinks with coworkers. Right. Then came the perfume that wasn't hers. The text she'd smile at but flip her screen down before I could glance. Then the gym obsession. The new lingerie. but no interest in being close to me. One night, she came home at 2 a.m., her lipstick smeared and her eyes too bright to be tired. "Car trouble," she said. I didn't even ask. I just watched her peel off her dress like I wasn't there, like I was a roommate she barely tolerated. I started checking our security camera archives. Not because I wanted to catch her, because part of me already knew. I just wanted the confirmation to kill the hope. And there it was. Travis. Tall, polished, with the kind of arrogance that wears a Rolex and thinks it makes him invincible. He pulled up in his matte black McLaren, and she ran to him, jumped into his arms like a high school girl seeing her crush, not like a married woman sneaking out of her husband's house. And the part that broke me? She looked happy, happier than she ever looked with me. She was never good at lying, but she was excellent at pretending. When I confronted her a week later, right before Thanksgiving, she flipped the script. "You're boring, Liam," she spat. "You used to dream. Now you just exist." I stood there silent while she packed a weekender bag with no shame. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving and whispered, "Maybe spend the holidays finding yourself." Now Christmas was coming, and I was uninvited from my own wife's family dinner. But I didn't fight. I played my move. Quiet. Cold. Calculated. When Travis saw the wedding photo, the illusion cracked. 6 days later, her mother was calling me begging. "Liam, please. Emily's not herself." I didn't answer. Because I'm not myself either. And this? This was only the beginning. 6 days passed. I didn't return her calls. Didn't respond to her sister's long-winded messages about how this has all been a misunderstanding and Emily just got confused. Confused? Is that what we're calling getting cozy with a billionaire while still sleeping in the bed I built? Confusion? The 7th day, I got a knock on my door. It was her mother, wrapped in a heavy beige coat, renosed from the cold and probably shame. She looked at me like I was supposed to open my arms and say, "It's okay." I didn't. "Liam," she whispered. "I was wrong." She sounded tired, worn out from watching her golden child's perfect plan burn to ash. "She's broken. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. She won't stop crying." I leaned against the doorway and gave her the most honest sentence I could. She broke herself. Emily hadn't called. Not once. And I knew why. She was still clinging to pride. The same pride that let her parade another man in front of me and call me the disappointment. I should have felt powerful, but I didn't. All I felt was tired. A few hours later, my phone buzzed. Her name. No message. Just her name. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Then, the doorbell again. This time, it was her. Her makeup was gone. Her nails chipped. The designer coat she wore to Travis's parties had been traded for an oversized hoodie that wasn't hers, maybe her dad's. I almost didn't recognize her. But the moment she opened her mouth, the venom returned. "You think you're clever?" she hissed. "You think you won? You dumped me in front of everyone." I didn't flinch. "You dumped yourself, Emily." I just gave him the truth. She laughed. A cruel, bitter sound. "You were never strong enough for me. That's why I looked elsewhere." "You didn't look elsewhere," I said calmly. "You crawled." She slapped me. Quick. Sharp. Her hand trembled afterward, like she didn't expect herself to actually do it. I didn't react. I just stared at her. "You don't get to rewrite history now," I said. "You can lie to your mother, to your sister, to your reflection, but not to me." Tears started forming at the edges of her eyes. But I'd seen this performance before. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I thought Travis could offer me something more. But he didn't care about me. Not really. You always did. And you spat on it," I replied. She took a step closer. I didn't move. "I want to come home." "You were never forced to leave," I said. "You chose to." She looked around the house, our house, like it was foreign. Like she was stepping back into a museum of memories she didn't earn anymore. Then she tried the oldest trick in the book. She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. That's when she broke. "I gave you the best years of my life," she yelled. I almost laughed. "You didn't give me anything. You shared them until someone richer showed up." Her eyes flared. "I made a mistake. But you're pathetic. You think this makes you better than me?" "No," I said. "It makes me free." And with that, I shut the door. She stayed on the porch for a while. I saw her shadow pacing through the glass, arms crossed, phone in hand. Eventually, she left. Later that night, I got another text. "Just talk to me." I didn't reply. I scrolled through old photos, some I hadn't looked at in years. Our honeymoon. Her birthday. That night we stayed up laughing on the floor because the power went out. I stared at the image of her in my hoodie, smiling. Not for Instagram. Just for me. And then I deleted them. Every single one by one. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken. I was just done. And that felt stronger than anything I'd felt in months. 3 days went by. Silence. Not from her. No, she was relentless now. Texts, missed calls, emails titled, "Let's talk like adults." Even her sister Madison messaged me some pathetic quote about forgiveness and healing. They were panicking. Because for the first time, I didn't chase. I didn't argue. I just disappeared from their script. That's what burned them. I wasn't the angry husband yelling in the driveway. I wasn't crying at her feet, asking why. I became a ghost. And that scared her more than anything. But I wasn't hiding. I was rebuilding. I moved into a short-term apartment on the other side of the city, industrial view, bare walls, cold floor, and silence. Beautiful silence. No passive-aggressive remarks. No perfume from another man on the pillows. Just my own breath, my own space. At first, I didn't sleep. My body kept twitching awake like I was waiting for her to walk in and start another fight. But when I finally crashed, I slept 10 hours. Dead. Heavy. Dreamless. When I woke up, something had shifted. Not everything. Not yet. But enough. I went out. Got a coffee. Talked to a stranger in line. Smiled at a kid who dropped his toy. I was becoming someone again. A man without her voice in his head, whispering that he was not enough. And then, she showed up again. At my office. I should have seen it coming. But she never used to be bold in public. This was new. She barged in like she still had a right. Tight jeans, perfect hair, acting like nothing had happened. "Liam," she said breathlessly, "we need to talk." I didn't stand. Didn't offer a chair. "Emily, leave." "No," she snapped. "You don't get to push me out like this. After everything we had, you threw it away." "I made a mistake." Her voice cracked. The office went quiet. I saw heads poking up from cubicles. She didn't care. She walked up to my desk, slammed a photo down. "Us. On the beach. Cancun, 3 years ago. You were happy," she whispered. "We were happy. Before the lies," I said. "Before the fake girls' nights. Before you let another man touch what was mine." She opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. "You don't miss me, Emily. You miss control. You miss the safety net." "That's not true. Travis dumped you. And now you want to come back to the backup plan." She actually scoffed. "You think I need you? I think you did. But not anymore." She laughed bitterly, turned to leave, then hesitated. "I'll make this simple," she said over her shoulder. "I'm not signing the divorce papers. You'll have to fight me." "Fine," I said. "I'll enjoy the fight." And I meant it. That night, I sat with the papers. Final draft. Clean. Legal. Simple words ending a complex betrayal. I signed them. I made 3 copies. Sent one to her. One to my lawyer. Burned a third over the kitchen sink. The next morning, she called. "You're really doing this?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. I didn't answer. Because her silence was finally louder than mine. 3 weeks passed. The world didn't stop spinning. My hands still worked. My heart still beat. The sun still rose, though it felt sharper now, more honest. Emily disappeared from the surface, but not completely. I'd still see her name pop up on unknown numbers. Still hear from mutual friends that she was going through it. I didn't care. Until the day I ran into Travis. It was at a client fundraiser in Midtown, suits, champagne, fake laughs, the usual scene. I almost didn't recognize him without her clinging to his arm. He looked different. Hollow. We made eye contact across the room. He walked over. "Liam, right?" he asked, offering his hand. I looked at it for a second before shaking it. "Didn't expect to see you here," I said, dryly. "Yeah, I imagine not." There was a pause. An awkward, suffocating pause. "She told me you were a broke loser," he said. "Said you were using her for stability." I smirked. She always was a creative storyteller. He nodded, looking away. "She lied about a lot of things." Another pause. Then he added, "I didn't know she was married when we met." I stared at him. No anger. Just clarity. "I'm not looking for your apology," I said. "You weren't the one who vowed anything to me." He gave a short nod. "Still, I figured you should hear it." I turned to leave but stopped halfway. "Did she ever tell you what she said about me at Christmas?" I asked. He shook his head. "She told me not to come. Said you'd be there. Said they'd pretend they didn't know me." His face shifted, just slightly. Like something cracked behind the eyes. "Guess you saw through it before I did," he muttered. "No," I said. I just saw it too late. I left before he could respond. That night, I got drunk for the first time in months. Not blackout, just enough for the pain to loosen its grip. I sat on the couch in my quiet apartment, listening to vinyls Emily used to hate. At one point, I picked up my phone, scrolled through her messages, all still unread. Then I opened my photo app. There was one picture left. I don't know how it slipped through when I wiped the rest. It was blurry, her in the passenger seat, laughing mid-sentence, window down, wind in her hair. I stared at it for a long time and deleted it. 2 days later, my lawyer called. She signed. Just like that. Done. I expected a wave of something, relief, maybe sadness, rage, but there was nothing. Just stillness. Until my phone buzzed again. It was her. A voicemail. Her voice was shaky, desperate. Liam, I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I can't stop thinking about us. About the way we used to be. I miss waking up beside you. I miss your stupid morning coffee routine. I deleted it halfway through. Because I didn't miss any of it. She missed what I gave her. The loyalty. The protection. The constant belief that she was better than the way she acted. But she wasn't. And now she was just a name I used to whisper in my sleep. A ghost I'd learned not to chase. And I was finally breathing again. The next week, I started packing up the last of the boxes from our old house. I had sold it. Didn't tell her. She found out through a mutual friend who used to live next door. I didn't feel bad. That house wasn't a home anymore. It was a crime scene without yellow tape. Every corner whispered memories soaked in betrayal. The couch where she laughed while texting him. The kitchen where she'd kiss me goodbye and then run to him. Even the shower where she used to hum. I used to think she was happy. Turns out, she just had someone else on her mind. As I walked through those empty rooms one last time, it hit me how much of myself I had poured into this place. Every paint color, every photo frame, every inch had a piece of me. And she desecrated it. I didn't take much, just a leather chair, some old books, and one box of things that were mine before her. The rest? Let the next owners build something new, untainted. That night, she showed up again. I was at my apartment, eating takeout, when the buzzer rang. I didn't even have to ask who. I knew. She stood in the hallway, wet from the rain, mascara smudged, breathing hard like she'd run the whole way. Her coat was open. Underneath was a tight black dress I hadn't seen before. Probably one of the gifts from Travis. You sold the house, she said, voice shaking. I did. Why? She asked, eyes wide, voice cracking like she was the victim. Because I don't live in the past. She stepped forward. I need to talk. No, I said. You want to talk? That's different. Liam, please. I'm not okay. I stared at her. This wasn't about guilt. It was about consequences. She was used to lighting fires and walking away while someone else burned. Not this time. Not my problem anymore, I said. She took another step. I just want to explain. You explained enough when you said, don't come for Christmas. Her eyes flashed. That wasn't about you. You told me you'd pretend not to know me. That your billionaire boyfriend would be there. Your sister laughed, Emily. Your mother joined in like it was a joke. She shook her head violently. They don't know what they're saying. No, I cut her off. They knew exactly what they were saying. And you let them say it. She suddenly looked small. Like a balloon that finally deflated. No power left. Just skin and regret. I lost everything, she whispered. He's gone. My family's turned on me. I don't know who I am anymore. That's not my fault, I said. That's yours. And for once, she didn't argue. She just stood there and cried. Real tears. Ugly, broken ones. But it didn't move me. Not anymore. Because I remembered crying too. Alone. In the dark. With a phone in my hand and no one on the other end. She turned to leave, but paused. I never loved him, she said softly. I thought he'd save me. But you were the only one who ever really saw me. I looked her dead in the eye. And you still chose someone else. She left. And I didn't feel victorious. I just felt free. A few weeks passed. No more calls. No more surprise visits. No more late-night voicemails. She vanished the way fire dies when there's nothing left to burn. I settled into the new place. It wasn't perfect. The walls were bare, the floors creaked, and the heating made a strange clicking sound at night. But it was mine. Every sound, every silence, it was mine. I started going to the gym again. The one near the river, where the old guys lifted heavy and nobody took selfies. I hadn't stepped foot in there for months. The first day back, I nearly collapsed halfway through my session. But I kept going. Not because I had something to prove to her, because I had something to rebuild in me. And then, one night, out of nowhere, her sister Madison texted, "Are you okay?" I stared at the message for a minute, confused. She hadn't spoken to me since the Christmas party incident. She was one of the people who told me to stay away, pretend I didn't exist. I almost blocked her. But something made me reply, "I'm fine." "Why?" Her answer came quick. "She's not." I knew who she meant. I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, another message came through. "She's been drinking a lot. Stopped showing up to work. Mom says she barely leaves her apartment. She won't talk to us." This time, I typed back, "She made her choices." "I know," Madison answered. "But that doesn't mean she doesn't regret them." I stared at that sentence. My thumb hovered over the screen. And then I put the phone down. I didn't need to be pulled back into that mess. Her pain wasn't my redemption arc. She wasn't my responsibility anymore. Still, I didn't sleep that night. Not because I missed her, but because I remembered who I used to be before all this. The version of me that believed in people. That gave second chances. That stayed long after he should have walked. I wasn't that man anymore. The next morning, I saw her. By accident. She was sitting outside a small coffee shop downtown. Alone. Hair pulled into a messy bun. No makeup. Just a scarf and a hoodie that looked 2 sizes too big. She had a cigarette between her fingers. I didn't even know she smoked. I paused across the street. She hadn't seen me. She was staring off at nothing. Lost. Completely. A year ago, I would have crossed the street. Sat down. Asked if she was okay. Tried to fix it. Tried to fix her. But I just stood there, watching the woman I once thought I'd grow old with slowly fall apart without making a sound. And I felt nothing. Not hate. Not joy. Just nothing. Because she wasn't mine to worry about anymore. She was a memory in real time. A ghost still pretending to be someone's future. I turned and walked away. Later that day, I met a friend for lunch. Jake, college buddy, recently divorced too. We joked about how marriage should come with a warranty, how people changed when no one was watching. Somewhere between the laughs and the bourbon, he looked at me and said, "You seem lighter, man." And maybe I was. Not because I'd won, but because I finally stopped carrying someone who was never willing to carry me back. I went home that night, sat on the balcony, and watched the city breathe under orange lights. My phone buzzed once. A number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. Somewhere out there, she was probably still trying to figure out how it all slipped away. But I wasn't. Because I had finally let go. Weeks turned into months. Winter melted into spring, and with it, the last traces of her from my world disappeared. I didn't speak her name anymore. I didn't replay the arguments or wonder what I could have done differently. That chapter was closed. One evening, I was reorganizing some old boxes in storage when I stumbled upon a folder I hadn't seen in a while, wedding documents, vows we had written, cards from guests. I opened one out of curiosity. Her handwriting stared back at me. "To my best friend, my protector, my future, no matter what storms we face, we'll face them together." I sat there quietly, letting those words hang in the air like ghosts. So many promises, so easily shattered. I didn't feel sadness anymore. Only clarity. Promises don't mean anything when they're made by someone who can't keep them. I put the folder back in the box, sealed it, and labeled it simply, "Past." One afternoon, I was walking home when I saw her again. This time, she wasn't alone. She was with a man. Not Travis. Someone new. Clean-shaven, stylish, the kind of guy who looked like he checked his reflection in every car window he passed. She was holding his arm, laughing a little too loud, wearing that same forced confidence she always used when trying to pretend everything was fine. She saw me. Our eyes locked for a second too long. Her smile twitched. The laugh stopped. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. She looked away first. It didn't sting. What surprised me was the wave of relief that hit me. I didn't want her back. I didn't need closure. I didn't care who she was with or what act she was playing now. I just didn't care. That night, I met someone new. Not in a movie moment, not in a poetic twist of fate. Just a casual meet through friends. Her name was Rachel. She had a calm energy. Asked questions. Listened. She didn't make me feel like I had to perform to be enough. We talked for hours. Not about pain. Not about the past. Just about now. At the end of the night, she said, "You've got sad eyes. But your smile's still trying." I laughed. Not a fake laugh. A real one. The first in a long time. I didn't tell her about Emily. Not yet. She didn't need to know that chapter. All she needed to see was the man who came after it. Later, as I walked home alone, I realized something. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making Emily regret everything. It wasn't about Travis or Madison or her mom or the words that cut deep on Christmas Eve. It was about me, reclaiming myself, piece by piece, and finally understanding that sometimes the worst thing someone does to you is the best thing that ever happened, because it sets you free. A year later, I stood at a rooftop bar with a view of the skyline, holding a glass of scotch in one hand and Rachel's fingers in the other. The air was warm, the city lights soft and distant, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the silence inside me wasn't empty, it was peaceful. She leaned in, her head against my shoulder, and whispered, "You seem far away." I smiled. Not far. Just remembering how far I've come. I didn't talk about Emily anymore. People who knew me back then stopped asking. And the ones who came into my life after, like Rachel, never met the version of me that bent, broke, and bled for someone who didn't deserve it. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about how it all unfolded. Her lies, her sister's smug voice, her mother's condescension, that brutal Christmas rejection. Don't come for Christmas. It used to echo like a gunshot in my mind. But now it was just a line from a play I didn't star in anymore. I heard through someone that Emily had moved to another city, working some startup job, still chasing dreams that didn't belong to her, still trying to be someone new for someone new. I felt nothing. And maybe that's what real healing is, not forgiving the people who broke you, not pretending it never happened, but waking up one day and realizing their voice no longer lives in your head, that your story didn't end where they left. It started. Rachel kissed me on the cheek and said, "Whatever it is you're thinking, you look like you made it through hell and came back better." I looked at her and nodded. I did. If someone asked me now what I'd learned, I'd tell them this. People will fail you. Sometimes the ones you trust the most will turn out to be the ones who cut the deepest. But if you survive it, if you get through the screaming nights, the silence, the self-doubt, you'll find something more valuable than closure. You'll find yourself. And no one can cheat you out of that.